Hello, everyone. Bo Williams. Time for Soccer Talk with my good friend.
And I'm Greg Rocool. How are we doing today, Bo?
Pretty good. Trying to build it up, you know. Hey, I'm doing okay. Finally, we've got a little bit of soccer to talk about. Unfortunately, we missed out on this past Wednesday's game for One Knox, taking on Madison, but that game with the storms coming through, had to cancel that one, or at least postpone that one. I know we've been checking. Still no word yet on when that one's going to be rescheduled.
Right, yeah. We'll have to see when that one fits into the schedule later on this summer. But really, yes, that was probably the best decision for all parties involved, whether it's the traveling party or, groundskeeping.
Sure.
You run the risk of really tearing up a really nice piece of grass that Knoxville has at their home field. And, potentially dangerous for the fans. So, disappointing, but the right decision.
Yeah, it was a smart move. And, of course, we'll let you know when they get this one rescheduled. But they were able to play a game last Friday, against Richmond. This one was on the road and really kind of played out how a lot of it expected. When you're on the road, if you're playing well, it's going to be a tight game. This one was a tight game. It really came down to the final minutes and seconds in this one before we were able to put one away.
Absolutely. Incredibly fine margins on a difficult place to play on the road. Richmond, one of the longest continuously operating soccer clubs in the United States, really. Right. And as a result, they have great home support at Memorial Stadium there in Richmond. I love an old school stadium, just a big concrete bowl. It really makes for an awesome atmosphere, I think. And so this is one of those situations where, like you said, incredibly fine margins. Knoxville might feel a little bit unlucky, but on the other side of the coin, Richmond might felt that they could have taken all three potentially.
Yeah, exactly. But again, it was a good game, a good one on the road, and the Kickers have always had great fan support there. So let's take a look at some of the highlights. We'll turn back the clock, go back to last Friday to kind of show you how this thing played out in case you weren't able to watch this game, or maybe you just kind of forgot how this one actually played out. So this was in the early minutes, second minute. Knoxville, Greg, we've been talking about this, the way they were able to push up, apply a lot of pressure, and cause some things to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. You see that early pressure gets them to Richmond to turn the ball over in their own box, leading to a chance for Callum Johnson, one that I'm sure that he would probably say that he would, like to see himself convert. But yeah, like we were saying, this was a team last year that, tended to sit a little bit deeper most of the time, but as only in certain situations kind of pressing up. But that seems to be a greater point of emphasis so far in this season, to really get after those teams in their own half and put them under pressure, not let them play out of the back. And you see it really almost paid dividends early in this game.
Well, definitely keeping Richmond on their heels early on, and that's what you want to do. I mean, if you keep the ball down at the other end, good things are eventually going to happen for you. But, again, did not convert there. Let's go to the 30th minute, though, of this game. Knoxville, this is something else we've been talking about, too, just the way they've been able to work the ball on the attacking end and cause turnovers and whatnot. But really, they did a nice job here. Stuart Ritchie, which we've been seeing this all week, getting in a nice cross. But again, not able to convert, but still pressuring, getting an attack.
Or no, this one they were able to convert.
Oh, this is the convert. Okay.
There is a lot of service that is coming in from the flank with Stuart Ritchie, but he is able to get that cross into Kempis Tequila, who just is able to finish a spectacular volley in the center of the box. And
also, we should know Stuart Ritchie, 42 crosses right now. This season, so he's one of the top. He's going to make something happen, whether it's a give and go or he's going to do it himself. But again, here putting it right on the spot. But again, Richie doing a great job. Then obviously the finish you're seeing there.
Yeah,
so, good stuff for One Knox.
Acrobatic finish from Kempis Tequila. He's really hit the ground running after coming over from Luxembourg. Hasn't been too much of an adjustment for him. And yeah, you'll see Stuart Ritchie, the way that he's able to kind of bait that wide defender high up the field, and then when he is able to combine there, as soon as he lays that ball off to the midfielder, Stuart Ritchie's running straight in behind to get that cross off. And so they really did play into One Knoxville's hands a little bit. Yeah, you see him, he kind of holds the ball, lays it off, and then bang, he's going in behind. Yeah. And that really is kind of the bread and butter for Knoxville, to get those fullbacks high. So, it really does create a difficult decision for those defenders. Do they come out and try and stop them from getting too high up the pitch and run the risk of having Richie or those other wide players run in behind, or do you kind of sit deep and let them, have those crosses from a little deeper?
I think we've talked about this before. My son was an outside back in his college days. It's always great. I love to see it when those defenders can make that run down the side and make something happen at the other end.
That's right.
Go to the 57th minute now. This time coming off of a throw-in. And again, kind of watch what's happening here on the far end of the field there. But this will result in another opportunity for One Knox.
Yeah, this is just another great example of just how it's comfortable, how much more comfortable they seem being able to, hold the ball up high, higher up on the field and find those teammates. This falls to Callum Johnson here, who just kind of shoots one right across the mouth of the goal, unfortunately unable to convert, but just the way that they're able to, not only just put both flanks, both of those wide defenders, whether it's on the left or the right, under pressure, hold off those defenders. It really has been a sight to see, and really, it hasn't worked out in the past 2 games. They've got now 2 goals in their last 2 games, unfortunately, but, if they're going to continue to pressure the ball high upfield like this, they're going to have plenty of chances and more opportunities to score as this season progresses.
As far as talking about chances of scoring, we're going to move to the 69th minute now. I want to show you another highlight from this game. And 2 names that kind of keep popping up, Richie and Johnson, and again, both playing a part in what you're watching here.
Yeah, we see a little bit of a turnover here, but there's Stuart Richie, right place, right time, making the interception to keep the play alive. You see that wide run that kind of pulls the defender wide, and that allows them to combine right there at the top of the box.
And that's a great, rule there or at least an example for some of the younger soccer players out there. Many times you'll see the great opportunity there, but you'll see a team turn it over, and whether they're they're pressed up, you'll see some of these younger players will turn and start walking back, right?
Right.
There you saw Stuart Richie. He's like, hey, I'm coming back. I'm cutting it off. We're turning it around. I'm not slowing down. We're continuing that pressure. If we can keep the ball down at that end, more the better.
Absolutely. And you see, we talked about him last week, Kingsford Ajay, who has now made a second game here this season. Once they turn the ball over, they find him at the top of the box. He's holding off the defender to get that combination play. A deflected shot leads to, it falls down to Callum Johnson, who's able to get that strike off. But yeah, this is another 2 great instances where, 2 great examples of where Knoxville has been able to make their biggest strides, whether that is pressing up high and forcing those turnovers, and then the combination play. And it really has been amazing that they've been able to do that well without Kingsford Ajay, who, like I said, he's only made his 2nd appearance this season. It was another substitute appearance as he continues to kind of get back into match fitness. But that is one of the most creative players really in all of USL League One. He was a key part of a South Georgia Tormenta team that went on to win USL League One 2 years ago. And so as they continue to kind of have that creative force in the middle of the field, those combination plays in the middle are only going to continue.
Yeah, I think so. And it's going to be exciting to watch. We're still early in this season, that is for sure. This game, as we mentioned, they milked every second, every minute out of this one. And, Richmond's going to be a tough team. Any of these teams in this league are going to be tough to beat at home. And Richmond, with that crowd support, really kind of sticking in there till the very end on this one.
Right, yeah. Like we said, we've had all the highlights we've shown have been a couple great opportunities for Knoxville to extend their lead. I'm sure head coach Mark McKeever is kind of ruining some of those chances that were not taken, and probably the biggest one right here at the end.
Fitch gets to the second ball, but couldn't guide it to a target, and Knoxville gallop away on the counter.
Knox coming back. Whoop, we'll just flip it around there. We'll pull this
Fitch gets to the second ball, but couldn't guide it to a target, and Knoxville gallop away on the counter. And Ajay sprinting at that back line. Only 2 back for Richmond.
But again, another opportunity.
Ajay still, Kingsford Ajay, saved by Shello. Rebound acrobatically cleared by Bashua. Fitch gets to the second ball, but couldn't guide it to a target, and Knoxville gallop away on the counter. And Ajay sprinting at that back line. Only 2 back for Richmond.
Here, stretching his legs.
Ajay still, Kingsford Ajay, saved by Shello. Rebound acrobatically cleared by Bashua. Fitch gets to the second ball, but couldn't guide it to a target, and Knoxville gallop away on the counter. And Ajay sprinting at that back line. Only 2 back for Richmond.
Screaming for this ball to be laid off
Ajay
to him
still,
here. So
Kingsford
really
Ajay, saved by Shello. Rebound acrobatically cleared by Bashua. Fitch gets to the second ball, but couldn't guide it to a target, and Knoxville gallop away.
Literally minutes later.
Yeah, I was going to say, not that long. It really didn't, not too much time ticked off the clock. We'll show you what we're talking about here as Richmond came back down to the other end, and here's just kind of how this one played out. So again, Richmond, it's almost like basketball. They're setting this thing up.
Yeah, this is the same run of play, no stoppage whatsoever after that save. They clip it to the back
Clip
post.
toward Billhart. Adrian Billhart!
Adrian Billhart able to head that
The
pass.
flag stays down. Richmond are level
really
in stoppage time.
Big saves, but unfortunately from that range, it's always going to be difficult to stop that one.
Yeah, Lewis has had 11
The
saves
Kickers finally punch back, and have they stolen a point late here in Richmond.
Adrian Billhart, and a good job here as we watch this again as they take it to the far side. But Billhart gets some air underneath him there, is able to get that and head it down. I mean, he's able to get
comes down to the decision-making and the composure from Gomero here. As he takes his time.
Absolutely.
He says shoot. He sees the run from Billhart.
Point blank range, especially when they
from the outside
hit that one low into the ground across his body. I mean, that would be an incredibly difficult save to make. You know, a lot of great chances, like we said, for One Knoxville to put this game away. You know, as the game kind of progressed a little bit, you know, this is still a very pragmatic team with head coach Mark McKeever. So as the game kind of progressed, you started to see them maybe not be quite as aggressive with those overlapping runs or some of those direct balls in behind. But unfortunately, they kept sitting deeper and deeper, and you saw it on this last goal where, you know, unfortunately, very little, you know, ball pressure at any stage before that ball finally gets served into the back post there. Yeah. So, you know, you see
Scooped
a lot of
defenders
in the box, right on the edge of the box there. Unfortunately, that gave him plenty of time to clip in that cross.
Clip toward Billhart. Adrian!
But, you know,
it happens. I mean, you know,
exactly.
That's just where they go. And if you go on the road, and I know you want to get the win, but if you can come back with a draw, sometimes on the road that's okay. I mean, yeah, you'd rather have the full 3 points, but you know, sometimes we'll take the draw and say thank you very much, and we're going to go back home.
Right. Some draws feel like wins. Some draws feel like losses. This one feels a little bit in between.
Kind of got punched in the belly a little bit, but at least you're able to walk out and say, okay, we didn't get the L, you know, so we're still looking okay in the standings, and that's what it comes down to, keeping those points coming in as far as the overall standings are concerned as we continue to watch. And you and I were talking before we went on here, you know, teams have been moving up and down. Right now, some teams, you know, they're playing more cup games than league games, and some are seeing more league games than cup games, so the standings can be a little misleading because some teams still have games in hand right now.
Right, absolutely. So yeah, still early days in the schedule, but yeah, to have 3 wins and 1 draw from your opening 4, 1 loss in your opening 5 matches, that is, I'm sure, something Mark McKeever is really, you know, saying that's something they can build on.
Right, yeah. So with 10 points right now, there's actually 4 teams sitting with 10 points in the stands. We should mention that Greenville right now on top. But Greenville's played, I think, 7 league games. The rest of us have played like 4 or 5. So still sitting pretty good. So what's coming up? Okay, we had the game that was postponed against Madison. We're still waiting to find a makeup for that one. But we had a big weekend coming up. It's Mother's Day weekend, and the guys are back home, and just not a better way than to treat mom to a soccer game. She also gets a hat out of the deal. They've been working some specials for this one, so a good chance to go out there and support the team.
Exactly. I believe first 200 moms in the door get a rose. So you know, if you forgot to get your mom some flowers, just head over to the One Knox game bright and early. And yeah, this is going to be a 5 p.m.
They're doing the hats too, aren't they?
That's right. There's one of the ticket combos I know.
4 tickets and plus mom gets a hat, I think is what the deal is.
Exactly. That's going to be 5 p.m. at Regal Soccer Stadium here in Knoxville. That is, we are back in the Cup, in the Jägermeister Cup, so stick around if that one's tied after regulation, because that one will be going straight to penalties.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about the Cup last time out. So in Knoxville's main group, you have Chattanooga, you have Greenville Triumph, and you have Madison. And then you have 2 teams from outside the group. This is going to be one of those games. So after they complete this game, they're going to have one other game against South Georgia Tormenta in that league, in that group play, and then the rest of them are going to be against that central grouping. So this could be a critical game.
And again, you want to win your group, but if you don't, they're going to look at how many goals you scored for that wild card to move through. So you may not have the best record, maybe you didn't win your group, but if you're scoring like crazy, you can still find yourself in the final 4, if you will, in the Cup play, which is very interesting, something I've never really seen before.
It is pretty unique, and yeah, like I think I said last week, I think you're going to see the urgency and
throwing the kitchen sink out there. Let's score some goals.
Right, the attacking impotence kind of crescendo as the group stage progresses, and teams kind of are really more familiar about what they're going to need in order to progress to that knockout stage. So we're still early on, but yeah, like we said, since this is such a big point of emphasis in this tournament, you know, there really could be fireworks at any time.
Yeah, really could. So definitely, if you can, go out there, check it out. Treat Mom coming up Saturday. As Greg mentioned, 5 o'clock kickoff there at Regal Soccer Stadium. And then the following Friday, One Knox on the road, taking on Central Valley. So they got a little bit of a trip. They're going to head up the west coast of the Pacific time zone there, 3 hours behind us. But again, this will be their first big trip out west.
Right, a bit of a long haul over to Fresno to take on Central Valley. This is a team that made a lot of headlines in the offseason with a high-profile managerial hiring. U.S. men's national team legendary midfielder Jermaine Jones making his professional soccer coaching debut here, so that's been interesting to follow. And then that following weekend, we are finally going to get a on-the-road match against Forward Madison. This is also going to be a cup game. But it's going to be interesting seeing as they're not going, since the game yesterday was postponed, they're not going to...
Yeah, already get that first look at them. Yeah.
Exactly. They're not going to have that tape that they would have gotten in the match yesterday, so it's going to be interesting to see how both of those teams approach it. Forward Madison has had a nice start to the season as well, so that one definitely could be key, in the group play. 2
big road tests, so this will be interesting to see again. And again, it's not the Eastern time zone, so that can always play a factor too as you try to get adjusted, get the team out there. But again, we'll see how they do out in California and again in Wisconsin. Hey, we talked about this last time. New teams coming in. No, it's not Portland, Oregon. Portland, Maine, and they finally released their, I guess their official name as well as their new crest. And I'll be honest, I like it. I'm a Hearts of Midlothian fan in Scotland, so I like kind of the Hearts of Pine.
Right. It is a really unique, distinct branding. That's one thing I think USL League One has done incredibly well at. You know, probably one of the most unique names in American soccer now. Probably will be colloquially referred to as Hearts SC. But yeah, this is really great to see. One thing I didn't know was that in Portland, Oregon, I guess around they have this thing called the Valentine's Bandit. Someone for years and years and years was on Valentine's Day would be putting up these hearts just all around the city in the dead of night, and they referred to them as the Valentine's Bandit, and that's something that they've been able to incorporate into their crest with this little heart here. So yeah, this is one of the most unique brands that I've seen in modern American soccer, and yeah, really building up to 2026, a lot going on. And we also got some big news today that we have another team that is scheduled to join the league next year. Also on the East Coast here, we're going to have Westchester, New York, playing out of Mount Vernon, not too far from New York City. And yeah, this is going to be another really interesting addition to the league, I think. We just have the placeholder name and crest right now, so that'll be something to follow as we get closer to 2025. But man, the way they've been able to kind of...
The league is growing by leaps and bounds, that is for sure.
Right. They've been able to just incorporate so many of these new and rising markets so quickly. Has been awesome to see. So right now I think we have 4 teams that are strongly linked to starting in 2025. We still have a Eugene team that I guess hasn't explicitly said what their plans are, whether that's for 2025 or a following year. But you're going to see this league go from 12 to 16 and 20 teams plus, really quickly.
And I can't remember who they're playing, but I just saw this on X today. It kind of shows you where the level of play is and the recognition and the respect. But South Georgia is going to be playing on ESPN2. I can't remember who they're playing against.
I think it is Madison.
Is it Madison who they're playing?
Madison team.
But that was announced today, the upcoming game. So we've seen the championship, USL Championship, on network television, and even on some of the big cable channels as well. And now ESPN2 going to be picking up USL 1, and actually on ESPN2, not ESPN Plus,
exactly,
which is great, but ESPN2. So hopefully, maybe we'll see One Knox on here at some point.
Exactly. I think they've been able to kind of flex the games as the schedule progresses to get the most compelling matchups onto national TV, whether that's on CBS or on ESPN or on the ESPN family of networks. But yeah, it's another busy summer of soccer ahead. Domestically, internationally, got some big tournaments coming into America with the Copa America. So we're going to be watching soccer all summer long.
It's going to be busy. And before we go, we just need to mention big matchup in Major League Soccer. I mean, it is the matchup. At least it is between us, and I can't believe I'm wearing a Nashville
of course.
tie. I'm from Charlotte, so Charlotte's playing Nashville this weekend. So
exactly.
Good luck.
Oh, yes, Heineken rivalry week is upon us. So
I always thought Atlanta was our big rival, but I guess MLS is saying, hey, don't forget Nashville, Charlotte could be big rivals as well.
Exactly. It's always fun to see those southeastern teams take on each other. The supporters groups have like a wrestling belt that they kind of for the team with the southeastern team with the most points against each other. That's Atlanta, Nashville, Charlotte, and DC United for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a reference to some like older wrestling federations that I'm not familiar with there, but it's a fun thing to see. Nashville is the current holder of the belt.
I think it's interesting they left out the Florida teams.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, speaking of Florida, speaking of USL League One, we have Naples that is that is heavily hinted at announcing their name and brand in the near future. So just keep an eye out for that one. And I think I believe next Friday we will have USL Antelope Valley, another League One team, planned to come in next year. They will be releasing their crest at a block party May 17th. So that'll just miss our next soccer talk, but a couple weeks from now, we'll be able to see, hopefully, maybe at least one and possibly two new teams with the branding and the logos.
Well, the great thing here is if you're someone who plans to follow One Knox to a couple of road games, now just the opportunities are expanding on where you can possibly go over the next several years. So you can plan your trips and support the home team on the road. All right, that's going to wrap things up for us. Best of luck to One Knox. Of course, next week we'll recap what happened. We'll let you know how they do if you weren't able to make it out to the game. And, of course, happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys next week. I'm going to be out of the office next week, but we've got some fun interviews planned in the coming weeks, so keep an eye out for those.
Sounds good. We'll see you again next week.